Welcome to Sliders and Wings, a podcast about the TV show Sliders
and the TV show Wings
and all the other forgotten TV shows of the 90s.
I'm Valerie Temple.
And I'm Rachel Cox.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi. We don't know how to get what to say after that.
No, exactly. It's like it's the beginning of the show.
Now since we've been doing this, whenever I listen to another podcast, I obsess about the intro, like how comfortable they seem and how like they just don't seem to talk over each other, and it's just not an issue.
Yeah, how did they do it?
How do they both not say hi to the other person at the same time?
Rachel, I have a little bit of housekeeping.
Okay.
All right. I just wanted to bring up the Blackout Must-See TV event because you texted me. You were like, wait, Seinfeld didn't do a blackout? And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. And so I looked it up and I thought it was so hilarious. So it was the blackout night was a night in 1994, and Jamie Buckman, aka Helen Hunt, starts the blackout on Mad About You. Then it continues on to Friends. It's like that iconic episode where Chandler is trapped in an ATM vestibule with like a model or something.
With Jill Goodacre, Harry Connick Jr.'s wife.
That's right. Yes. Jill Goodacre, yes. And then Seinfeld was up next. They totally took a pass on the entire idea, just skipped it completely. No blackout.
In their own universe.
Yes, no blackout on Seinfeld. And then they wrapped up the blackout on a Dabney Coleman show called Mad Men of the People. Oh. So, which everyone remembers, even me.
I remembered it, and I remembered that Dabney Coleman was in it, but I don't remember anything else about it.
You did remember it. I that was not in my memory at all. I was like, I have no idea. But yeah, I just love a TV event that they didn't even make it work. Like they didn't even get all four shows to do it.
Yeah, they didn't.
Why?
Over there. Yeah, I think that you and Eric were talking about the blackout, and I kind of just didn't think about it, and then I marinated on it for a few days, and I thought, wait a minute, I have definitely seen every Seinfeld 20 times, and I've never seen a Seinfeld blackout episode. So glad we cleared that up. So the TV shows that were in the Thrillogy lineup, we've had our eyes on since the beginning.
Yes, because just to remind our listeners of what the NBC Thrillogy was, it is, according to Wikipedia, because there is a Wikipedia entry about the Thrillogy, which I'm obsessed with. It was a short-lived sci-fi action programming block on NBC's Saturday night that debuted.
Saturday. Okay.
Yeah, it was a Saturday night. Yeah. And it debuted in fall of 1996 with 3 action or sci-fi series: Dark Skies, The Pretender, and Profiler. But Dark Skies was quickly canceled. But then NBC was like, no, Thrillogy is such a great idea. Like, let's keep it going. And they tried to add in another show called Sleepwalkers. But that was canceled after 2 episodes.
Is that related to the Stephen King book and the movie?
I don't think so. Okay. I didn't look it up. But and then there was like I think a third show a show called The Others, which was like a paranormal series. So for a 4-season period, they kept like trying to make this Thrillogy block work, but it never really did.
But The Pretender ran for 3 seasons.
4.
And
so did The Profiler.
And so they were fine. It was finding this third.
They could never make it.
They just didn't want to make it the Saturday night thrill duo. They didn't
they wanted to make that pun happen because it's a trilogy of shows.
I know.
And they're all thrilling. So they were like, we gotta make this pun happen. And they just couldn't do it.
Maybe we should spend the next week thinking of scary names with the theme of duo in it.
Yeah, and then just to resubmit them to NBC like decades late.
Oh yeah, I can't think of anything right now, but maybe something else will come to me.
I was obsessed with the ad campaigns for the Thrillogy, obviously, but I don't know if this was like a local announcer or if this was the national campaign or whatever, but the voiceover guy for NBC in Columbus, Ohio, could not say Thrillogy. He kept saying Thrillogy.
But one of my pet peeves about the Philly accent, the Philly Jersey accent, is saying street.
Street, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Street. Straight and street.
Yeah.
Just adding an H in there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really funny because I had a family member once who like could not say the Royal Tenenbaums, and she would say Tendabons.
Yeah. My mom could not say the word episode. She would say episode. And it drove me insane. Like as a child being like, there's no F. There's no F. It's episode.
Well, I think that there's some cultural pretext for this because in the UK they say aluminium.
Yes.
They add an I to aluminum. And then my mother, who's from Australia, for some reason says asphalt instead of asphalt.
Oh, okay.
But maybe she doesn't do it anymore if she listens to this. So maybe I'll have to ask her again. I don't know. I know that there's really no rules, right? It's all just made up.
It's all made up, and you kind of just have to roll with it. But Thrillogy, that guy was being paid. That guy was like, we're just out here living our lives, trying the best we can. That guy was getting a salary to sell one word.
And he did like 10 takes, and at a certain point, the producer was like,
they're like, fine. They didn't hire a new guy, though. They were just like, fine, it's Thrillogy, whatever. Like, this programming block isn't working anyway. Who cares?
It made you more intrigued, so it worked.
Yes.
So I've been a little bit nervous to do this show because after I watched the pilot, I almost have no notes because the show was so good.
It was incredible, Rachel.
So good.
Did we say
doesn't age? I have to say.
Did we say so? We're talking about The Pretender. Did we say that already?
The Pretender is an American action drama series created by doesn't matter, and it aired on NBC from blah 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 96 to 2000. The series follows Jarod, a young man on the run who is a quote unquote pretender.
Yes.
A genius impostor able to quickly master the complex skill sets necessary to impersonate a member of any profession.
Yes.
And then in each episode, he assumes a new professional identity in his quest to uncover his origins, deliver justice to criminal wrongdoers who evade the law, and stay one step ahead of the Center, which is the sinister think tank that kidnapped him as a child to exploit his abilities. And what's amazing about the Center is that they say off the bat that it is located in Delaware.
Yes. So fascinating Delaware, like not in a remote location.
Well, it was founded in Delaware for the tax breaks.
Right. But it's a very like nefarious, vaguely government associated business entity.
They've got government contracts.
Yeah. And
it's like part of the scientific military industrial complex.
Right. So what has happened? So the way the show starts out is it starts out with these amazing title cards that really just that's the pilot itself. It just like sets up everything for you. And it says, there are extraordinary individuals among us known as pretenders, geniuses with the ability to insinuate themselves into any walk of life, to literally become anyone. In 1963, a corporation called the Center isolated one such pretender, a young boy named Jarod. Locked in a controlled environment, they exploited his genius for their unofficial research. Dun, dun, dun.
And at that point, all the Chrissy Hynde fans turned off the TV.
Yeah, they're like,
oh, that was a show about her.
Right. But I also, that title card leads me to ask the question, which I don't know. Are there other pretenders?
In this universe or in the whole world?
In this universe.
Oh, right. I don't remember, but I would guess if I was a showrunner that eventually I'd have a lady pretender show up. I Googled before we turned the podcast on, are pretenders a real thing?
Well, it's
to make sure.
It said that it's based on this like famous impostor.
But you're right in that why did they open the door to this being some sort of like common type of person?
Yes, exactly.
Why weren't they just like, oh, he's a genius?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Or like just like he is a unique person. It's as if like they make it seem like like he's a mutant and there's a lot of different mutants out there, but like they found the best mutant.
I know, I am left with so many questions. Like, why pretend that this is some existing classification of person?
Right.
And also, isn't anyone who's intelligent enough, can't anyone who's smart enough pretend to be many different occupations? I mean, people who are imposters or con men or something, it's not really about intelligence. It's more about how they're able to read other people's emotions. And
I don't know. I mean, Jarod like does medical procedures.
Well, right. I'm saying part of it is being able to pretend.
To
the
sell.
Part involves being like having a good emotional IQ and having a good IQ where you can memorize stuff. Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. But what's interesting is that the show went on for 4 seasons, but then they made 2 TV movies based on it. And then they did graphic novels and books.
Starting in 2013, they started graphic novel, like it kept going with the storyline with like a series of books and graphic novels and things, which, I mean, I have to say this was so good. It was like really, really fun to watch.
Tight. It was a tight pilot.
It was, and it was so enjoyable. I mean, like it was actually like high quality. Like I'm not you know, like this was good for being kitschy or no,
it is so good.
Really fun to watch. And like, I want to watch more episodes, which
we had to watch this on Daily Motion, didn't we?
I know. So like, will it even be possible to watch more episodes? Who knows? But it should be. I mean, it had 4 seasons. That's enough. That's enough.
That's a lot of meat on those bones.
It could be on Peacock. Peacock.
Yes.
That's what Peacock's for. Like, who needs another way to watch Friends?
What would you call it's technically a drama, but within a drama, to me, it reminds me of like a do-gooder show. So it's kind of like Quantum Leap, where it's a guy and he's somewhere different every week, and he's trying to help different group of people.
He has basically a dossier of news articles of people who have been wronged because so Jarod is a pretender and he's lived at this center for 30 years?
Yeah, like since he was a kid.
And he has been like used by the center in these like weird government contracts that have had like very bad consequences. Like he finds out that like projects that he has worked on, unbeknownst to him, caused,
right. When he was working on them, he thought that they were to prevent damage or prevent loss of life, but then it turns out they were just used for, not like to kill people, but they were just used for military or government purposes, regardless of who they killed. So sometimes the people were actually killed.
Right. So he feels like he has blood on his hands. So that
causes him to run away from the center.
Right. So he is now
backstory.
Yeah. So he has now escaped from the center.
But is the dossier things like, I don't think I got a clear explanation for the place where he was and the situation he was solving in the first episode, how he even found out about them, or did he just randomly get there and uncovered it?
There were several notebooks that had articles in them.
In the opening scene, the 2 people that are chasing him that are from the center, who we haven't discussed yet, but one is called Sydney, and he was like Jarod's father figure /
scientist guy, who
handler kind of.
I would like to discuss him in our accent corner segment, just because, and he's like the first one who's not, I don't think he's doing an accent. He just has such an unusual.
It's very weird. He kind of sounds like Vincent Price.
He kind of sounds like, or like Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Like Hannibal Lecter, yeah.
So I was looking him up because I'm like, so he's this like aging scientist-y guy who, he works for the center, but he also has known Jarod for 30 years since Jarod was a boy. So he's got kind of these dual.
He's kind of like his father.
Yeah,
he's like his boss.
So he's kind of like his father, kind of like his boss. Yes. So then he is pulled in both directions, but every time he talks, it's just it's this weird, kind of soothing European accent.
Do you like it more or less than Tom Bosley?
I like this one more, I think, just because it's mellifluous. He's from Brussels.
Oh.
This actor, his name's Patrick Bouchow. And his father is acclaimed Paris-based Belgian author and psychoanalyst Henry Bouchow, and his mother was Russian, who ran a publishing house and a Swiss finishing school. So it's just a mishmash of like Europe.
You see a lot of people from Holland or Scandinavian countries who can speak English with no accent whatsoever.
You could almost mistake them for being British, the way that it comes. Yeah. So yeah, I also, here's another, this is a fascinating fact that I found about him as well. On his IMDb, it said, took a break from acting, during which time he built furniture and created large stuffed animal pillows for Salvador Dali. It's like, wow, okay. You know, half the time, IMDb trivia is not very fascinating. That was something where I was like, whoa, what? Okay.
Who is I don't remember the name of the other person who is chasing him, the woman.
Oh, Andrea Parker.
They just call her Parker.
And
she's the ruthless one. So, you know, Sydney says something early on like, oh no, they sent Parker.
Yes.
That means this is serious. And it's just weird because the whole episode they're chasing Jarod and Jared's always one step ahead of them. But Sydney doesn't really want to catch Jarod. He's just concerned about him. So there's even a point in the show where Jarod stages this whole diversion so that he can approach Sydney and ask him a question. And Sydney doesn't even try to capture him or even alert Parker. He just it's like, Jarod, you look well. How are you?
Right. There's a lot of
feels like he's his dad.
Yes. And Parker is really pissed off. She's a total badass. The first time she appears on screen, she's like smoking the cigarette and like getting off a helicopter, and she just is in the most glorious like 90s suits, and just has no time for this at all, and it is just like seems pissed off all the time. But yeah, it's like she like basically like after Sydney lets Jarod get away, she basically like shakes this old man.
Is it implied that she also lived at the center or was a child of the center?
Yeah.
Do you know that from later?
I knew that from vaguely watching the show, because like as a kid, I don't know if I actually really watched a lot of episodes of this show. I think I've watched only a handful. I was more aware of the advertising campaign, just the concept of the Thrillogy, the Thrillogy guy, and also there was an iconic to me commercial where the voiceover was, is Jarod crazy or crazy like a fox? And like I just like quoted that for years because but yeah, I didn't really watch the show that much, but I do know that she also lived at the center, and she also has like weird stuff about they've lied to her too about her family and
I know that there's some point where there's some sort of romance between them, or they hint at it.
And why not? You know?
Okay, but wait a minute. I'm looking at the cast just from, it's not even IMDb, it's just now Google has adapted, so it just shows you the cast of everything. The actress's name is Andrea Parker.
I know, confusing.
And the character's name is Miss Parker?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, do they both named Andrea Parker?
They're just on the show, she's just called Miss Parker.
Is it like Tony Danza where every character he plays is something?
No, because I can tell you that for a fact, because she was on 10 episodes of ER.
Okay, good.
She played a tough as nails pharmaceutical rep that Doug Ross, aka George Clooney, dated or early in the run of the show. So, and her character's name was Linda Farrell. So
I'm looking at the other cast, and it's jogging memories. Like the guy that played the bald assistant, Broots. Mm-hmm. He's like her underling, and he was really good. And then James Denton, who's he's known for being the hot.
He was on Desperate Housewives. He's
Desperate Housewives. Yeah. Played Mr. Lyle, who I guess was a bad guy. That sounds like a bad guy.
I mean, you got it. That sounds very much like a bad guy.
So the plot is that when they first of the pilot is he's already on the run, like he's already left,
right?
And Miss Parker and Sydney are after him, and they go to an oil tanker and they find one of his little dossiers of articles of something bad that happened to kids or like pollution or something like that. I don't know if it was a misdirect or something, but then suddenly Jared's at a hospital and he's in Queens.
Right.
And he's pretending to be a doctor. And within 5 minutes, we get the famous line that was in all the promos where he walks into a room and the patient goes, "Are you a doctor?" And he says, "I am today." And that was in all the promos. I was like, "Woo!
Yay!"
But basically, it's just him always being one step ahead of them, and they keep almost finding him, but he's like left all these tracks. There's a lot of complicated stuff that's not really worth going into, but the whole plot of what's going on at the hospital is that he's basically uncovered these two crooked hospital one's the doctor and one's the hospital administrator, and they basically were guilty of malpractice, but they covered it up.
They're covering it up because they're trying to sell the hospital to an HMO.
Public, yeah.
So they're poised to make a whole bunch of money if they keep these rumors at bay, or like these malpractice suits at bay. And so Jarod comes in to sort of unravel what's going on and make them get the eat crow, basically. And the surgeon, who is the root of a lot of the malpractice suits, is played by Stephen Tobolowsky.
Yes, who is going to be in the episode of Picket Fences that we're watching.
Oh, really?
Next week or the week after.
Nice.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
If anyone watches this show, he's just really familiar. I mean,
he's Needle Nose Ned the Head. Come on, buddy.
Right, yeah.
Case Western High, from Groundhog Days. That's how, that's probably his most iconic role. But like in this, he is an alcoholic surgeon who is just like drinking martinis a lot. And
yeah, I mean, he was drunk. He's been drunk during surgeries.
Right.
But the way that Jarod tricks them in the end is actually really, really, really clever, where he plays squash with the hospital administrator guy. I don't know, he drugs him or something.
He drugs him.
He makes him think he's having a heart attack, and the guy has a history of heart problems, so he does think he's having a heart attack, takes him to the hospital, and then says, "Okay, so this other doctor, the one that this guy knows to be a drunk, he's going to operate on you." And the guy's like, "What? No, you do it." And he's like, "Oh, I'm actually not a doctor."
It's so good.
"If you tell me where I'll get you a real doctor."
There was this boy who is in a wheelchair. He's been permanently disabled because this drunk doctor was negligent during a surgery, just didn't do what he was supposed to be doing, and because he was drunk, and severed his spinal cord, and so this kid can't walk anymore. But the hospital administrator covered that up, and he hid the x-ray film to make it look like the hospital wasn't at fault. And so this is Jarod's play to get that film and have a happy ending for the boy.
I guess he hands it off to the boy thinking that they'll take it to their lawyers and then get a settlement. But I thought in the beginning, this kid is in a wheelchair and he's watching his other kids play basketball, and Jarod comes up to him and he's acting all creepy. I mean, we know Jarod's not creepy, but we know that this kid thinks he's creepy. And he's like, "Don't worry, it's all gonna work out." I'm like, "Oh, he's gonna fix his spine or something." No, he's just gonna give him money.
He's just gonna, which is it's supposed to be a happy ending, but it's it's not very satisfying. Because the kid's now rich, but he's still in a wheelchair. I mean, it doesn't. But Jarod is being really creepy because he's also because he has lived in this weird center all his life. He doesn't
denied certain pleasures.
He doesn't understand certain things. He's not aware of certain things. So it's just normal things are new to him. So there's this scene where he tries ice cream for the first time. It takes him a long time to take a lick, and it's very funny.
Ice cream stuff's really good.
It's the whole ice cream thing is sort of a running thing throughout. And then there's also a scene where somebody's watching Wheel of Fortune and he doesn't know what Wheel of Fortune is. And
oh, right, but he called it something funny. Oh, the TV quiz show.
Right. Like, what?
The trivia show that's on the TV.
Yeah, we can't say Wheel of Fortune.
There were definitely beepers in this show as well, and I wondered if we should start keeping track of how many shows we watch that have beepers.
Rachel, that brings me to a segment I wanted to introduce, which is called The Most 90s Thing. Where we try to identify the most 90s thing in the episode we just watched.
Okay, this is great because I have what I'm ready to do what it is.
Okay.
You go first?
I was just gonna say that beeper, yeah. And which is like Stephen Tobolowsky is a doctor, so it makes sense that he does have a pager. Like I think doctors to this day have pagers, so that's not crazy. No. But the way that they introduce it, he's like, you know, they really like hit it home because later, you know, they're like, hey, I got it. I lost my beeper earlier, but I got a new one. And they kind of like close up on it. You're like, okay, I guess this beeper is going to be important. And
then if they show a beeper in the first act, it's got to go up in the third act.
It's going to go on. And it does because, and this is like a high tech beeper too, that like has like a full display screen. So, you know, there's a threatening message from an anonymous number that like pages across of it. It's like, where is the X-ray film? And
I think the most 90s thing of this show is the incredibly thick, wide headband that Miss Parker is wearing. It covers her hairline. It covers her ears.
On the whole, though, I loved the way she was dressed. She was wearing these like just power bitch suits and in like very like 1996 like vaguely shiny fabric. I loved it. I was loving her. She figures out some things. Like she also like, you can tell that she's pretty intelligent. Like she picks up that like origami thing, and she's like, oh, this isn't it isn't
an angel, it's someone from a Greek myth,
right? That is like the angel of retribution or something. So she figures out what Jared's motivation is just from that.
They said, how did you know that? She said, I dated a lot of frat guys.
I know. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember. I watched this show. I don't think I religiously watched this show. I don't think I could even say if I did or did not see every episode. So I remember it fondly. So I kind of walked into it without any strong opinions. But okay, I would say the thing that is most memorable at the show is the thing I want to ask about now, which is Jared's haircut.
I know.
It's
distracting.
Kind of like a Caesar.
Yes.
It's like curled and very short bangs.
Yeah.
But I looked at it very closely throughout the show, and it's not down and flat like a Caesar. It's kind of like curled, but it basically looks like a Caesar because of the way it falls.
Right. And we're in peak Caesar zone of 90s male haircuts of it.
I remember at the time thinking it looked odd, like it looked like a child's haircut on a man, and I wonder, is that part of it's supposed to kind of make him seem like an oddball or seem out of sorts with everyone?
I would say, like, I would give the show credit and say that he's supposed to look a little weird, because I also remember him being just sort of memorably just from the ads and things, just being like, he looks a little odd, you know, and that haircut I think was part of it. So I don't think he's supposed to be like a heartthrob either, even though he's not like an unattractive guy, but he definitely has like an odd, it's just all over sort of odd, which is kind of funny because the idea of the show is that he can just, insinuate himself into any situation and just pick up any job and do anything. But it does seem like he would stick out to people, you know?
Well, he's also very warm. He was speaking in Greek to the old Greek woman and like giving her reflexology and things.
Yeah, I loved that one of the subplots of the show, this episode of the show, was him helping an old Greek woman poop.
Wait, when did she poop?
She poops at the end. Yeah, when she poops because like the whole idea is that she like comes in and she's he's at the hospital pretending to be a doctor, and she comes in and they think she's going to have surgery because she's so constipated.
Oh my God. I did not know the constipated part. I remember that she didn't want surgery.
So then she's like, I don't want surgery. And he's the only one who can speak to her in Greek, even though she's just, of course, she can speak English as well. She just doesn't want to. And which is convenient for the viewer, I guess. But he's like, oh, you don't need surgery. And he gives her reflexology and makes her like a special tea. And at the end of the episode, she's like, I did it.
Okay, I noticed all that. I just did not remember what her original ailment was.
It was constipation. But because Jarod was so kind to her and helpful to her, she helps him escape at the end.
Yes.
Because the center, they're always hot on his trail, but they never quite get him, you know? And but they're really close to capturing him at the end, but the old lady misdirect.
Yeah, she got them to go out the window when he was really inside. And then the other subplot is that the center told him a long time ago that his parents had died in a car crash or a plane crash or something, and then he takes a vial of his blood and he has it run at the hospital, and he discovers that his parents, or he has some sort of, I don't know, enzyme in his blood.
He has a genetic
can have it, and he has some evidence that the people who were buried there weren't his parents.
Right. So the center has just sort of ginned up a whole backstory for him that they've sold him for his entire life, and he has finally been able to prove that that's not true at all, which also seems to come as a shock to Sydney, his father figure, scientist, doctor friend.
Yeah, he said, I don't know, that's what they told me.
Right. So
yeah, it seems like he's not lying.
Right. So the rest of the show is just continuing to have these adventures each week where he's like saving people or helping people any way that he can with his skills. But then also the ongoing story is him trying to uncover this mystery about who is he and who are his parents and are they still alive even? Yeah. Because he's been told that they died in a car crash, a plane crash, something like that. And if those people who they told him were his parents aren't his parents, where are his parents? You know, they could be anywhere, including alive. So it's very compelling. Like it's got both things where it's like it's procedural stuff, but also this sort of like overarching motivation.
Pretty much like anything with a conspiracy. This has a lot of conspiracies in it.
Well, it also has just an amazing use of the Zapruder film from the JFK assassination, because we get like a flashback of young Jarod,
right, because he started there when he was in 1963, or he was born in 63.
He was born in 63, I think he started there in 63, and so so that coincides with the assassination, and they show Jarod basically doing like a pretend.
Oh, he was pretending to be. Yes, he was right up the stairs, and he's like, "Okay, I'm in the book suppository."
Yeah, he's doing like
the book suppository.
Yeah, he's doing like a pretender simulation, basically, where he is basically pretending to be Lee Harvey Oswald as he runs up the book depository steps. He's holding like a gun in like a paper bag, and he's running up these steps, and then in the simulation, he's shooting out the window, and Jarod discovers through Jarod's pretending, we know definitively that there could not have been a lone gunman. That was where I was like, this show has me. This is fantastic.
It's the premise is that there's someone who's so smart and so empathetic that they can, if you can imagine what it's like to be anybody, then you can basically predict anything they might do and explain what they might have done. So basically they put him in these scenarios, and then he could say exactly what this particular person would have done.
Right.
Which is kind of like the profiler.
It's exactly like the profiler. That's kind of like what is so odd about it is like, okay, so we're acting like, so being a pretender is sort of like being a profiler, but profilers do exist. Pretenders don't exist. But they're in the same lineup. There were 2 shows, The Pretender and The Profiler, and they had 3 crossover episodes.
Well, one show we're doing the chasing. The other show we're being chased.
Right, exactly.
I was just thinking how, when you start watching a show that's got some sort of conspiracy or mystery in it, and you're like, oh, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point you go, well, what could this mystery be? I've seen all the mysteries.
Yeah.
Like there's a list this long of the things it could be. If it's something that's not on this list, then it's probably going to disappoint me because it's going to be just too wacky. If it's something made up. If it's going to be like, and we're in a simulation. Or I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess my point is that with these types of shows where conspiracies are unraveled or revealed or mysteries are revealed, it's really about the telling of it.
Yeah, the execution.
And the execution and the acting and stuff. Because at this point, we've all seen I keep thinking about True Detective, how True Detective unraveled this mystery and I was so intrigued. And then when I was watching, I was like, well, what is this horrible thing going to be that all these people are hiding? And it turned to be like this horrible, disgusting thing that I didn't really want to think about. And I remember just thinking, well, I mean, what else could it have been? I mean, like there was nowhere else for it to go, really, unless it was this disgusting, horrible thing. Because all the disgusting, horrible things have already been done.
Right. You got to up the ante, you got to push the envelope, Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about TV, like it's really about the characters and if you find them and like how they're being portrayed, if you find them, sympathetic or if they're compelling in some way. And if the way that the other characters interact with them, if that stays interesting, if that stays motivated, it can, it gets you through. And that's kind of like what I enjoyed about this show is that I feel like modern shows get really, really wrapped up with the mystery or like the mythology. And that's why they fizzle out so fast. Is because they've, it's twist, what's going to happen? What's the mystery? And then finally, you twist yourself so far until you can't go anymore. And then there's nowhere for the show to go afterwards because the mystery's over.
Yeah. I mean, Lost is an obvious example.
Right.
I also noticed this happening a lot with shows that once they introduce time travel, they shoot themselves in the foot because the first season, and one example is the Umbrella Academy on Netflix, which is really good. And there's first season they introduce some sort of time travel element. You're like, oh, a twist, it's interesting. And then they use it a little bit more in the next season, and until I do not know what is going on anymore. I don't know the timelines. I don't know who this person is or that person is, or what happened when, and I'm totally confused.
That's kind of why I found the Pretender sort of refreshing because it was just it seemed like a combination, the perfect combination of what I want in a show where it's an interesting new story each week. I like new characters coming in. I like, the fresh sort of environment. I like that. But I also do like an overarching story that and motivation. So this just seemed perfect for me.
It's everything that Father Dowling Mysteries wasn't.
Correct.
You didn't know anything about Father Dowling. You really didn't know anything about Steve. You didn't care about either of them.
You didn't understand why they were doing it.
No.
Why they cared.
No.
But this was a lot of very strong motivation, very, you understood immediately why he was doing these things. I mean, it's kind of wacky that he is going on these kind of weird missions, but he's a pretender. That's what pretenders do. What else would he be doing with his life? Now he's just, instead of being used for evil, he's using his powers for good.
Oh, we didn't do What You Watching. What am I watching? Oh, I just finished watching in the span of time since I talked to you a week ago. This it's on HBO Max. and it's called The Head. And it's a mystery. It's like a mystery thriller. Some of the actors are Danish and some are British and some are American.
You posted about that on Instagram. Yeah, it looked interesting.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Because after the second episode, there was a twist and I thought, oh, I know where they're going with this, but I'll keep watching anyway. And I was wrong. And I was very happy to be wrong.
That's cool.
That was very well done. It also involves like climate change scientists, which is funny. A thriller involving climate change.
They're showing it can be done. But very boring, dry subject.
So the show Evil, I think, is a good example of, so I'm comparing it to Umbrella Academy. So Umbrella Academy is this show on Netflix that's based on a comic book that's about these people. It's set in kind of an alternate timeline where they have some technology, but not others. So like they have lasers and they can go to space, but they don't have computers or cell phones, like
okay,
pick and choose,
Sure.
You really limit your plot devices when you eliminate cell phones, or vice versa. Anyway, it's just a lot happens. It's about these kids that all have special powers. And I think I just finished watching the second or third season. We still don't know why they have special powers or where they came from. It's just everything that is, where did I come from, background stuff is just being dragged out really, really slowly. And all the stuff that's happening, all the like saving the world stuff takes up all the time. And that it gets more and more convoluted, right? Because they keep having to up the ante and make it more exciting. And like, they're always upping themselves, right? And it's just getting really, really intense. And the more intense it gets, the more believable it gets and complicated. And if it was using the same plot line as The Pretender or Evil, for example, where there is a plot of the week, and that takes up half the time. So half the time or 3/4 of the time is taken up with this thing that's going on this week. It's tried and true.
Right. No, I really think it's a great formula. You could just pick up an occasional episode and still be able to follow it, but like true heads who are watching every episode get extra stuff out of it.
But I guess it's not like we're the first people to realize this, but do you think that there was a blowback against the case of the week formula because people started to get tired of, oh yeah, it's wrapped up every week. So then people got more interested in seeing things that were just more long-term plots. Now we want to go back to the good old days.
Yeah, I want to go back to the good old days. I truly, that's sort of why I really enjoying revisiting the 90s. It's just like, oh, remember when comedies were filled with actual jokes and and dramas had stories that you could follow.
I follow this one that great, but you explained to me the things that I was missing.
It was mostly poop related stuff that you missed, so most of it you got.
I was having a potty training incident this evening, so that would have interested me. My older son was completely potty trained at 2.5, in one weekend. Didn't even have to, we never even had to wear pull-ups at night or anything like that. And then the younger one is now 3.5 and won't poop on the potty. And we were talking about do we take a diaper and do we cut a hole in it? And
God.
And then sit him on the potty, but he's wearing a diaper and then he'll go that way. And I did that and the dust and diapers was flying everywhere and then he wouldn't put it on. And then it's so stressful and
this is an episode of TV I would watch.
So I identified with that Greek woman.
Yeah. It's I really need you to poop. Here, give him some special tea and rub his feet. What am I watching, Rachel? I'm glad you asked.
Yes,
I finished ER.
Congratulations.
So yeah, and I immediately didn't know what to do with myself. So I was like, what do I've been watching this for
I guess I'll start a quilt or something.
Yeah. Well, it was so funny because we finished the last episode of ER is an hour and a half long because it's a grand finale. Although it's
a quadruple wedding at the end.
No, it's actually really, it's kind of an awesome episode just because there's a lot of old cast members that come back for different little small appearances, but mostly it's just business as usual in the ER. It's just it almost feels like a regular episode with just some familiar faces, and then it just sort of the end of the episode there's a crane shot and takes you up and you see the hospital and then you're out. It's kind of sort of magical in that it doesn't take this huge, it's all a dream, it's inside of a this autistic kid's snow globe or whatever, which is the end of St. Elsewhere.
Yes.
Which is also a hospital.
What are you gonna do now?
So after we finished watching it, Erin and I were just I don't know we don't know what to do with ourselves. And so we had like sort of like a YouTube party where we were each showing each other things that we had seen in school, like short films that we had seen in school that we were like had vaguely remembered. So he had like dug up this like animated short called The Snowman, which I guess is like sort of a classic in England, and it's about the snowman that comes to life, not unlike Frosty, but it's like very English. And like then the boy who animates the snowman, they end up flying through the air and joining this like group of like it's like a coven of snowmen who are dancing together, and then Santa Claus appears. And there's this really weird song that sounds like it's being sung by like a cross between like Nico and like Enya or whatever. It's walking in the air, like this really weird like minor key dirge as they're like flying through the air. And then of course they come back, and then the little boy goes to bed, and the snowman is melted in the morning, and then that's the end. And Aaron had to like watch this in elementary school, and I was like, why? What was the educational content like for this? So then I was like, okay, let me show you something that I had to watch in school. And so I unearthed something that scarred me, which was a little short film called Death Zones, which was about bus safety. And it's like it starts out with like this little girl who's, it's in a classroom. It's a kindergarten class. They're making Valentines, Rachel. They're making beautiful Valentines. There's this little girl. She's made a beautiful Valentine, and the voiceover is like, she's excited to give this to her mom. And then she gets on the bus, and it's the voiceover is just like, this bus driver has perfect safety record. Little does he know that one of these kids won't make it home, and like, because they've fallen into the death zone. And then it's like showing you like this bus driver's doing everything that he should be doing, like crossing guards, he's watching everything, but like there's this zone around the bus where he can't see you. And so then at the end of the like they keep telling you, the voiceover guy keeps telling you, one of these kids will die at the end of this. And I was like, who will it be? And of course, it's like the little girl gets off the bus. She drops the Valentine in the road, runs back to go get it, and the bus runs over her. And that's the end. And I had to watch that multiple times in elementary school. And I think after the first time, I was like, look, I got it.
I don't remember any specific scary videos we had to watch.
Really? This was like a 1970s film strip too.
I feel like there were just a lot of creepy regular movies from the 70s, like Watership Down, and then there's one called Mouse, Father and Son. Let me just tell you what it is. You can just tell it's depressing. The music is very creepy. The coloring is very creepy. It's very 70s. It's about a toy mouse, and it's like a mouse and his son, and they're attached together, and they're like a little tin toy, and they do a little dance, and they get like thrown in the garbage, and it's just them like trying to survive and being unwanted and like wandering in the streets and dumpsters and trash cans and being thrown in the trash. And like, that's the whole movie that's based on a book. Everything is just very dark, I think. I mean, even The Rescuers is kind of dark, which was one of the Disney movies from the 70s.
They went hard in the 70s. And just as a kid, you're like, what? Like, why? Did you ever have to watch a short called The Electric Grandma?
I don't know.
Have you heard of this? This is another thing that Aaron had to watch, that it like the only reason I ever heard about it was we were standing outside in Philly, and like one of our neighbors had gotten like a really large package outside, big package, like probably the size of a refrigerator. And I was like, what? I wonder what that is. He's like, maybe someone ordered an electric grandma. And I was like, what? What is that?
Well, I'm looking it up now. It's a robot grandma.
It's a robot grandma. So it's based on a Ray Bradbury short story, and it's about like a family, like these kids have lost their mother, and so their father orders them like an electric grandma to be like their caretaker and their companion. And she's played by Maureen Stapleton. And there's just a very memorable sequence where she's a robot, so she does like vaguely robot-y things, but it's like the 70s also, so it's not that high tech. So like at one point she shoots milk from her finger and like into a cereal bowl. But like you can see on the like YouTube comments for it, it's like, oh, I thought I dreamt this. Like there's just so many people who saw this as a child and were like totally traumatized by it. Like, oh,
I think I'm actually just starting to forget a lot of this stuff.
Oh,
which is probably for the best.
Yeah, maybe.
The things that I did rewatch a lot in my 20s, when I do occasionally go back to them now, and these are things I watched over and over again as a way in my 20s of reliving my childhood. And now when I go to watch it, I go, I don't have time for this. And I tried to watch The Rescuers, which was one of my favorites, with my kids. And like, okay, the opening credits were so long.
So
my kids
long.
were like, when does the movie start? When does it start? And I was like, it's coming, I promise. Because I want them to have like longer attention spans. And I want to say, it's coming. We just enjoy the graphics and the paintings and the text. Like they were so confused. They're like, is the movie ending? No, it's actually starting.
It hasn't started yet, actually. This is the beginning.
Starts. And again, like the pacing is just so different. It's just so slow.
Very slow.
And I mean, I was one of those people that when Pixar started and Toy Story and all that stuff, I was like, it seemed like a fad, like everything's got to be all round. But now when you watch the older animation, like it just does seem so flat in comparison. Like it just seems so dull.
I mean, Sleeping Beauty is still, I think, like a really beautiful, like 2D animation.
The 60s one, I mean, they have The Rescuers is mostly gray, but Sleeping Beauty and Alice in Wonderland, like the psychedelic ones from the 50s and 60s are.
Those hold up. So
yeah, those are good. I mean, I think The Rescuers in particular is just very slow.
It's very just like the pacing and also just the animation. Yeah, is kind of like drab. It's mice and like they're all sort of gray or like this like weird grayish brown.
Funny note about that movie: if you would look at the beginning when they're at the like mouse UN, there's multiple mice from one country or something. It doesn't really make sense. It's not. It doesn't like the way that they divided up all the mice doesn't really make sense. They don't each represent different countries. But I think that was now.
I did like that part is funny to me, even though like as an adult now being like, did they really like thinking about like the creation of that movie? Did like the people at Disney think that children would be interested in the UN? Like
they have a song. That's cute.
Yes.
I know. I didn't understand any of that when I was a kid.
I was like, what is this? But I was like, really? Like they thought they could make the UN work for like 8-year-olds,
Well, I think that this might be it.
I think so. What are we talking about next week?
We are doing Picket Fences.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Picket Fences is on Prime, so you can actually buy any or all of it.
Yeah, you can. It's like $1.99 an episode, or you can just.
Well, we're gonna watch episode 17, and it's called "Be My Valentine."
Right.
And it's a specific one that I remembered very, very well. That has it has a serial killer in it.
Oh boy! Spoiler.
Oh yeah. Oh, no,
Rachel.
It's not a spoiler. I mean, that's what it's about. They don't reveal a serial killer in the last 5 minutes.
Okay. That fine. But
and we have a special guest, but I'm not sure what the special guest wants to be. Is using an alias.
Yes.
So we can't reveal who he is.
Yeah. What is the podcast version of like? Those like interviews where people are in the shadows, like they're anonymous. I guess like a voice like
we need to get
changer. That'd be really weird. But anyway,
he's a really good guest.
I'm excited about Picket Fences, but I just also, the Pretender, man, like I just want to urge people to check it out on Dailymotion. Like
I'm looking here at the movie Pretender 2001 is on YouTube. I
might watch it.
Watching it tonight.
Yeah, I might. I was telling Aaron I was like giving him a little bit of a Cliff's Notes of.
It's also on Dailymotion.
Oh yes. I wonder if the full series is on Dailymotion. That would be amazing. But I mean,
the original movie picks up where the final cliffhanger of the canceled series left off, so I'll be all caught up.
But I also heard that both movies end in cliffhangers. So
one thing I'm trying to explain to Oscar when he's watching these shows, and he's trying to watch more adult things, and he's not understanding that plot details are revealed slowly. You know, he'll see a bit of something revealed, and then he'll want to know the whole thing. I'm like, they're only showing us a little bit. We're gonna have to find out later.
You gotta be patient. You gotta be patient.
But also, sometimes I'm also not understanding what's going on either. I'm like, it doesn't matter, Oscar. Like, you kind of have to watch things emotionally. Just follow the beats. Just feel what they're feeling. You know, like these details don't matter anyway.
Just roll with it. Just roll with it.
Be a pretender.
Yes. Pretend you get it. Pretend you get it. Oh, what other things did he pretend to be? I can't wait to find out, because he pretended to be so many things in this episode, just FYI. He was a surgeon, a firefighter,
an oil tank
captain, a stock market trader, they did that thing at the end, which I wondered about, where the ending scene is him starting a new identity as a pilot. As an airline pilot, yeah. Does episode 2 pick up there, or is it something? Oh, probably not. Probably not. No. But I mean, like, that's fine, because
why would they waste a pilot identity?
I'm sure that he's a pilot several times over. I mean, how many different jobs could they give this guy?
All right, we'll see you next week.
This has been Sliders and Wings with
Val and Rachel.
That's right. And you can email us at slidersandwings@gmail.com.
Bye.
Bye.